Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. So in this video I'm going to be sharing with you guys how I made this beautiful straight gown with collar and the bishop sleeve. If it's what you like to learn, kindly watch to the end. If you are new to this channel, you are highly welcome, and if you're here to subscribe, please hit on the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. So guys, the making of this dress was too long, so I had to divide the video into 3 parts. I'll be dropping the link in the description box below. Without wasting much time, let's get started. So these are the materials I'm going to be using for this tutorial. For the fabric, I'm using 3 yards of crepe fabric. The teal green is 2 yards, while the white is 1 yard. Then my measuring tape and my pattern papers. I used 3 pattern papers for this tutorial. And this is my hemming gum, my thread, scissors, masking tape, and my pattern rollers. Opening up my pattern paper, I'm going to place my tape on the tip of my pattern paper, and I'm going to measure 2 inches downwards. I'll make a mark there and I'll square across. Then I'm going to label it my shoulder line. Placing my tape on my shoulder line, I'm going to measure downwards to 8 inches and 10 inches. Then I'll make a mark there and I'm going to square across. I'm going to label the 8 inches line my chest line, while the 10 inches is my bust line. I'm using one side of the pattern paper as my center front. So going back to my shoulder line, starting from the center front, I'm going to mark 2.5 inches for my neck width, and downwards I'm going to also mark 2.5 inches for my neck depth. So I'm going to connect these 2 points with a curve, and this is going to be my front neckline. Placing my tape on my center front, still on the shoulder line, I'm going to impute half of my shoulder measurement, which is 7.3 inches. So I'll just make a mark there. On the point where I marked half of my shoulder measurement, I'm going to come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. Then I'm also going to impute half of my shoulder measurement on my chest line, then connect with a straight line to my shoulder slope, just like the one I'm doing in the video. After that, I'm going to use my ruler to connect from my neck width to my shoulder slope. On my chest line, I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 inches, which is 8.5. So placing my tape on my center front at my bust line, I'm going to mark 8.5. Then I'm going to find the midpoint of the straight line that I drew that ran from my chest line to my shoulder slope. I'm going to find the midpoint. Then on that midpoint, I'm going to make a mark there. Then I'll come in by ½ inch, just like the way I'm doing in the video. Then I'm going to use my armhole curve to connect from the shoulder slope to the ½ inch I came in by to 1/4 of my bust circumference that I marked on my chest line. Placing my tape on my shoulder line, I'm going to measure downwards to my half length on my waistline. The half length I'm using is 15.5 inches. So I'm going to make a mark at 15.5 inches. Then I'll use my trace ruler to square across. Then I'm going to label down line my half length. So my pattern paper was not up to my full length, so I had to join another pattern paper to this. So from the bottom of this pattern paper, I marked 1 inch upwards, made a mark there and squared across. Then I brought another pattern paper and I placed it on that 1 inch line that I marked. Then used my masking tape to join these two together. After which I placed my tape on my half length and I measured 9 inches downwards, which is my hip line. So I made a mark on that 9 inches. I also measured 25 inches. I made a mark there. The 25 inches is my knee line. And I also measured 28 inches, which is my full length, the full length of this dress. And I added extra 2 inches, making it 13 inches total for the folding. After marking this point, I'm going to use my straight ruler to square across, and I'll also go ahead to label these lines. Now I'm going to start imputing the 1/4 of my round body measurement. On my bust line, I'm going to divide my bust circumference by 4 inches, which is 8.5. So I mark 8.5 on my bust line. I marked 7 inches on my half length, which is the 1/4 of my waist circumference. On my hip line, I marked 9 inches, which is gotten from my hip circumference divided by 4, Moving down to my knee line, I removed half inch from what I marked on my hip line, which is 9 inches. So it's 9 inches minus half inches, giving me 8.5 inches. So I marked 8.5 inches on my knee line, on my full length, and on the allowance line. So I'm going to mark my dart intake now. Going back to my half length, from the center front, I'm going to mark 4 inches, which is my nipple to nipple measurement. So I'll mark 4 inches on my half length, and I also mark 4 inches on my bust line and on my waist, on my hip line, sorry. After marking these 4 inches on my bust line, half length, and waistline, I'm going to connect the 4 inches points with a straight line. So this is my dart line. You can label this your dart line. So placing my tape on my waistline, on the dart line, starting from my waistline, I'm going to come downwards by 6 inches. Then I'll make a mark there. Now I'm going to come in by 0.75 inch on the both sides of my dart line on the waistline. I'm going to make a mark on both sides. Then I'm going to use my ruler to connect from the dart line on my bust line to the half inch I came in by on the waistline to the 6 inches I came down by from my waistline, just like the way I'm doing in the video. Then after marking it, I'm going to measure the dart intake and I'm going to replace it on the side front. And I'm also going to mark the allowance I'm going to be using for this dress. I'm marking the sewing allowance of 1 inch. So I'm going to impute this 1 inch sewing allowance from the chest line down to the full length and to the allowance of this dress. After marking the 1 inch allowance, I'm going to connect from my chest line down to the full length and allowance of this dress, just like the one I'm doing in the video. After connecting, I'm going to add half inch on the neckline and on the shoulder line. The half inch on the neckline is for turning the neck, while the half inch on the shoulder line is for joining the back shoulder and the front shoulder together. So after doing this, I'm going to cut this out. So guys, if you notice, this dress does not have a dart. I removed the dart, but if you want yours to have that, it's fine, you can leave it like that. So to eliminate the dart on this dress, what you're simply going to do is to cut open the half length. Then you're going to place your straight ruler on your dart leg. This is 0.5 inch you came in by, just like you see me doing in the video. You will place your straight ruler on the dart leg and you're going to connect it to the armhole. It mustn't be the armhole. You can connect it to the shoulder or to the neckline, anywhere you want it. But I wanted to close this dart on the armhole, so I'm going to connect that 0.5 inches to the. So after connecting the two dart legs, I'm going to use my scissors to open one of the dart lines. I'm going to open one of the dart lines. While cutting it, make sure you don't cut through to the end. Just leave a little space at the armhole side. Then after cutting it, you're going to close it. You're going to close it just like the way I'm doing with your masking tape. After closing the dart, you're going to set that aside and you're going to do exactly the same thing for the skirt part. So just simply connect the two dart legs to the side of the skirt and then you open one part and you close it with your masking tape. So you notice that at the upper part on the waistline that is no longer equal. So what you simply do is to find a piece of paper and place underneath, and you place the upper part and the lower part together to fill in the gap. Then use your masking tape to hold it together, and they're going to use your straight ruler to remark the half length, and you're going to cut it open. Just do it exactly the way I'm doing in the video. So we're going to be drafting the back pattern. So from the tip of my paper, I'm going to come down by 2 inches. I'm going to make a mark there, and I'm going to square across. Then label this my shoulder line, just like we did for the front. From my center back, I'm going to come in by 1.5 inch for my zipper allowance. So I'm going to mark this 1.5 inch from my shoulder line down to the full length of my dress. After doing that, I'm going to use a straight ruler to connect it. Placing my tape on my shoulder line, I'm going to mark downwards to 8 inches, which is my chest line, and to 9.5 inches, which is my bust line. Then I'm also going to mark my half length, which is 15.5 inches. Then after making this point, I'm going to use my ruler to square across, and I'm going to label these points. Back on my shoulder line, I'm going to impute half of my shoulder measurement, which is 7.3 inches. So starting from that zipper allowance, I'm going to mark 7.3 inches. And I'm also going to mark 7.3 inches on my chest line. For the neck depth, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. And for the neck width, I'm going to come in by 2.5 inch. Then I'm going to use my curve ruler to connect this. I'll also come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope, then connect it to 2.5 inch neck width. Just like how we did the armhole for the front, you're going to connect a straight line from the shoulder slope down to your chest line. Then you're going to find the midpoint of the straight line. Come in by ½ inch, then use your armhole curve to connect from the shoulder slope to the ½ inch, then to your quarter of your bust circumference. Placing my tape on my half length, I'm going to measure downwards to 9 inch, which is my hip line. Then I'm going to measure 25 inches, which is my knee line. Then my full length, which is 28 inches, and the allowance of 2 inches for folding of the hem. So I'm going to mark these points, and I'm going to use my ruler to square across. And I'll also go ahead to label the lines. I'm going to mark the quarter of my waist circumference on my half length. For the dart intake, we're going to do exactly what we did at the front. At the waistline, we're going to come in by 4 inches. I'll also mark 4 inches on my hip line and on my bust line. Then placing my tape on my waistline, I'll come down by 6 inches. Then I'm going to come out by 0.75 inches, just like we did for the front, on both sides of my waistline. Then connect it to the bust point, connect it to the 4 inches I marked on my bust line, and to the 6 inches I marked downwards. Then I'm also going to come in by 0.75 inches on my half length from the zip side. And after marking the 0.5 inches, I'm going to use my ruler to connect it in a slanted form, just like the way I'm doing. This is to avoid zipper bulge. Then I'm going to impute the quarter of my waist circumference from that 0.57 inch I marked. Afterwards, I'm going to replace the dart I took on the half length, and I'll also go ahead and divide my round body circumference into 4, and then I'm going to impute it. Then I'll also go ahead and mark 1 inch for the joining allowance. The measurements are exactly the same as the front measurement, so just go ahead and impute the same measurements you did at the front, impute the same measurements at the back. The only difference between the front and the back is the zip side. So after inputting the quarter of your round body measurements, you're going to add 1 inch allowance to it, and you're going to connect with your ruler. They are going to mark 1 inch for the zip allowance. While making this 1 inch, you're not going to mark this 1 inch from the 1.5 you marked at the beginning. You're going to mark this 1 inch from that slanted line, for the slanted line you marked for your zipper board, just like the way I'm doing in the video. So after connecting your measurements, just like we did for the front, you are going to mark half inch for the shoulder joining, and you're going to also mark half inch for the neck turning. And after marking these, you're going to use your scissors to cut this out. After cutting this out, we are going to eliminate the dart just like we did for the front. So I'm going to cut open the half length, and you're going to redirect the dart to the armhole. So just watch closely and see how I eliminated this dart. It's exactly the same way we did for the front. And that is all for the drafting of the front and the back pattern of this dress. So guys, I had to end this video here because the video was getting too long and there was so much noise in the background while I was doing the voiceover. So for the next part of this video, which is the drafting of the sleeve, the collar and the cutting of the fabric, so don't wait to turn on the notification bell and hit the subscribe button, so once I drop the second video you will get notified. So see you guys in the part 2 of the drafting of this outfit.